Hey guys, it's Brant, and I'm back with another In My Head video, and I am your host, Brant. Sounds very podcastish. But anyway, another thing is, I feel like after 5 years, I should have a tagline, something along the lines of, "If it's going on with Kiss, it's going on in my head." I don't know. What do you guys think about that? But anyway, today's video is another video in the series In Our Heads. And In Our Heads is where we come together as a collective unit of Kiss fans and we talk about things Kiss. It could be guys or gals that just ran into each other and it's like, hey, I talked to you in a while, but I was thinking about this. I saw this online about Kiss or what have you ever thought about this? And so that's what we do. We just get together, we laugh. That's the whole point, is laughing and having a good time. So today's video is going to be episode 3 of season 2. And what I've decided to do is start breaking the episodes up into 4 episodes a year, one every quarter, somewhere in the third month of the quarter and the 3 months of a quarter. And not being like the third quarter, maybe October, November, or December. It could come out in any of those months. But there'll be one more episode after this one. This is episode 3 that you're about to watch, and there will be one more episode after this one. And I'm going to go ahead and break the surprise on this one, on episode 4, because I'm really excited about what it's going to be. We're going to be doing commentary for the Phantom, Kiss Meets the Phantom. We're not going to be able to play the video, but what we're going to do is we're going to all watch the video together, whoever's in the video, and we're going to comment on it. And then whenever you watch the video, we'll tell you when to start your version that we're watching. We'll tell you when to start it. And so you can watch it like on another tab or on another TV, and you can listen to us commentate and talk about it. And so we're looking forward to that. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. But that's next episode. So in episode 3, I'm going to be joined by AJ Zetro from AJ's Happy Time on YouTube and AJ Zetro 75 on Instagram. I'm going to be joined by Matthew Smith from MD Smith Comics on Instagram. And we're going to have a special guest, Rob from Right Between the Eyes, is going to be joining us today as well. Now, Rob showed up a little late. He was a little tardy for the recording. We thought he wasn't going to make it at all, but he ended up being able to show up towards the end. So we asked him the questions that we had been talking about, and I'm going to be flying his answers in and out. And then he has a topic that he talks about at the very end. So we had a really good time making this video. So I just want to get right into it. And so I hope you enjoyed today's video, because if it's going on with Kiss, it's going on in my head. I don't know. Let's see if that grows on me. Let's get right into it. Yes. Matthew's playing the part of Max Headroom in the video tonight with his glitchy webcam. But
I'm coming live from the International Space Station, so
exactly. And that wall's just a blue screen behind you, right?
Yeah. No, I hung up movie posters in the space station.
So. Oh, okay. And so it's good to be hanging out with you guys. This is something we do, and just it gives us a kind of, it's almost kind of like the round table, except we did it first. It's just where we get together and we just talk about stuff and just topics that we feel like are either relevant or kind of on our brains, or things that we just always wondered, and just random stuff and spin off conversations into the cornfield. And it's just in our heads. You're getting in our heads, and you get to hang out with us. Is anybody drinking anything tonight? I don't even have a drink with me. I have this much water left.
Got some water. Got a beer.
I've got an orange Monster.
There you
all
go.
Right. Well, I don't have anything, so we all cheers. And
Salud.
So who wants to go first?
Looking for a sponsorship. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Looking at you, Monster. Who wants to go first with their topic?
AJ, you can go first.
Don't all speak at once.
Well, like I said, I've been kind of dry lately, so I did think of a pretty fun one, involving Kiss, and I know that probably me and Brant heard some good ones back in the day, but I was wondering, like, what are some like the Kiss rumors or myths, truths, or misinformations that you heard throughout your life? that it was just kind of fun, like anything when they're when they're in their makeup from now to upcoming or whenever. Like, what are some rumors that still ring in your head to this day? And
let's see how many of those we can name.
I know you got. I know
of us.
you probably have a couple of doubles, but like I remember hearing like when Gene Simmons would do the blood gimmick, he would bite like a piece of his tongue or a piece of his cheek or a piece of his mouth or something, and he would really make himself bleed like that. And that's why whenever I looked at the back of the Alive 2 album, there was like a little spot where like blood was on one side and blood was on the other side, and like a little black spot where his makeup was. And I convinced myself that was a piece of his lip that he, they bit off, and like you could see right there, he's got a chunk of his lip hanging off where he bit it. So that one was always a fun one to me. And I don't know what if you guys, I'm sure. Like I said, it could be from 1973 to 2023, whatever rumor or anything you've heard, they're like, oh, man, that's kind of, that's goofy. But when you're a kid or even when you're a gullible adult, you believe it to some degree,
Well, let's just go around. Let's just go around. Matthew, you name one.
Yeah, the obvious one is the cow tongue.
Yeah.
That's a very obvious one. They even talk about that on Kiss Exposed, I think it is, something like that about
the cow tongue. That was a good one.
Yeah,
he had his tongue surgically replaced with a cow's tongue.
What in the world?
Which, if that was the truth, it'd probably be down to like here.
Yeah, and like this wide. It's like some Weekly World News stuff.
So that was there. I remember that one for sure. I remember that one.
Concerning Gene, the other thing I heard concerning blood was that it was chicken blood. That's what we thought for the longest time, and had heard that rumor that it was chicken's blood, that or cow's blood, or the cow tongue, cow's blood, anything but his blood, but cow's. And I always thought that me as a kid, I used to think it was ketchup. Because especially if you look at some of the pictures, like some of those pictures of Gene where it's down his chest and stuff, it almost looks like it had the consistency of ketchup.
Well,
which from what I hear concerning the recipe, there's no tomatoes in it, but the recipe of it is not very far off from, something that is, of course, edible. It's like some corn syrup, some food coloring, but speaking of, not throwing this in here real quick, a little bit of trivia here. Rumor versus trivia versus a truth. Do you know who makes Gene's blood now? I've said this in one of my videos before. You know who his blood's actually made for him? You know who makes it?
Isn't it 3M?
3M.
Oh wow.
3M makes his blood.
Special for him.
Special for him.
Well, going with the ketchup thing, it's like, well, the inner sleeve of Love Gun probably helped perpetuate that rumor.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah,
I remember hearing that one before. I remember hearing I had my cousins convince me that on Detroit Rock City at the end with the crash, that was Ace Frehley getting into a car crash.
Yeah.
They had taped it and put it on the album that was his car crash.
How they would have taped that.
They were at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's when Ace got in his accident. It's at the end of Detroit Rock City. I'm like, oh wow. I was like 5. That was a good one. That was one I remember hearing when I was a kid.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember. I know there were some others that I've heard, but yeah, because when you guys said those, that reminded me of. Yeah, I've definitely heard some of those. The car crash thing. I don't know. I just remember, pre-internet days too.
Mm-hmm.
When once Ace and Peter left, you didn't hear a lot about them. Of course, when you think now, Ace left in '82, and Frehley's Comet came out in like 86, 87. That seemed like so long,
Mm-hmm.
It's like 4 or 5 years, but it seemed like, a decade or more.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, this is not really a word of mouth, but the whole thing about when Peter Criss impersonator was on the Phil Donahue thing,
Yep.
that Peter had been living in squalor and homeless and all this
Living
stuff.
under a bridge.
Yeah. And
Yep.
it seemed entirely plausible because, you hadn't seen Peter in years, heard anything from him.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But of course, that guy looked nothing like Peter, except
No.
maybe a somewhat similar haircut, but that was about it.
Peter shows up on Phil Donahue with the platinum blonde.
Yeah.
Not a good look, buddy. Not a good look at all.
No.
That was good. I don't think I ever saw Pete though without his makeup until probably around that time.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ace too. I'm like, where have I been? Been hiding. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I remember the first time I saw Peter without makeup, he had the beard and the little, and I remember thinking that don't look like Peter Criss. Why Peter don't have a beard. He couldn't have grew a beard,
Well, I never saw those solo albums until whenever they re-released them. I think in the '90s.
Yeah.
Those were never on my radar.
Wow.
So
the whole rumor that Kiss was a satanic band, Knights in Satan Service, Kings in Satan Service.
Yeah.
This is one I think I've said it before on my channel, and it is so obscure, and I don't know if it's one of those things like maybe like one of your friends convinced you, that was Ace in a car crash. I was told when I was a kid, and I don't know if it was rumored from somebody older than me who was an older Kiss fan, that Kiss came up with the way they came up with their makeup designs was they got really drunk one night and and they were worshiping Satan or whatever, drinking blood or drinking and worshiping Satan. And when they woke up, the makeup was on the outline or the design of the makeup was on their face. And that was what they went with from, and then they, perfected it as time went on or whatever. But yeah, so the thing,
Tales from the Crypt episode.
The devil hand delivered the makeup.
That sounds kind of vaguely familiar, something like to that order. I'm sure it was changed over different by the time I heard it, but that sounds kind of like something I would have heard back in the day.
That could have been something they spread themselves. Made it sound really cool.
How about this rumor that Ace and Peter are going to play at the farewell shows? How about that one? That's a hilarious one.
Zing.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a big BS lie.
Yeah.
Oh, we
That
got
ain't gonna happen.
special plan.
That ain't going to happen at this point in time.
According to Gene, we got something big. Something big's going to happen. You might want to come see us in New York. Yeah, sure, Gene.
Something's big going to happen. They're going to be filming it for a Blu-ray release after the fact.
I would
film. Or
I'd
filming
love
it
to
for a
see
pay-per-view.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
And that's still 50-50 in my opinion if that's going to happen.
If they do a pay-per-view of one of the two nights from New York and it's $100, I'll buy it. I'll watch it. Because that's just going to be something so cool to see. That to me is beyond Dubai, and Dubai was just another show. Dubai was a cash grab.
I was hoping for more from that.
Yeah. Supposedly the people that put all that on has started at making right with people. I don't know if they've made it right with everybody, but they're supposedly. I've heard, and I know some people that got to Dubai, and they'll have to chime in maybe in the comments if they got Dubai. Have they got a refund for the DVD that they never got, or not getting to see it in the movie theaters during the spring, or things like that? But supposedly that was a ball drop by the company that Kiss got to put it on, and wasn't a ball drop by the band themselves. But it'd be nice if they made it right. But yeah, if they do a live perform, if they do a pay-per-view. Also, at this point in time, I don't want Ace and Peter to come back.
Right. Yeah.
There's been too many. They're going to have. They've already had too many last shows for people, and I think it'd be just a little bit of a kick in the groin that even if they came back on the final shows or they were there for the two New York shows, and they come out on the stage or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm saying not even if they just don't come out, if they just have a not come out and play, but if they have like this thing where, oh, you know, we're going to bring out Ace and we're going to bring out Peter and just to, you know, and that the fact that they're there, I don't know.
The final bow.
Yeah, the final bow. You know, hey, they're here. They're not playing, but they're here. I don't even know if I'd want that at this point in time. Some people do. Some people still want them to play, and I just don't.
Xander, I watched his video on that, and he made some good points, and I'm like, you know, how they're not in any shape to play, like maybe a song, I don't know, but like the stipulations and the money, and I think it just sounds like too much of a pain in the ass. It'd be nice for us fans to see something like that, but at this point, I would just settle for like their picture on the big show, like. Don't forget these two guys. Like that's just the big picture of them. That's it. You know.
Yeah.
this rolls up on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like I said, they do show some video of them. Like I think it's during Deuce and some things. So,
okay.
So Matthew, you got another rumor?
Any more rumors? Yeah, I'd actually just thought of one, but I blanked on it. And this is a rumor that, you know, I thought years after the fact that it was just a fake rumor, but it comes out it was true that they were developing a cartoon in the 70s, apparently. Like, I didn't realize that was a true rumor, but Hanna-Barbera was, or Ruby Spears, one or the other, was going to develop a cartoon for them. And Jack Kirby apparently did some preliminary type artwork.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, you can Google it. It's like just black and white pencil sketches he did of the four of them, you know?
Yeah.
And there was debate over whether it was Hanna-Barbera or Ruby Spears, but like Gene confirmed in some interview that it was Hanna-Barbera, but I think somebody else was saying it was Ruby Spears. But anyway, regardless, they were. It was like, I think it was right before Dynasty. They were talking about doing this. And like I said, I'd heard that before, and I thought, people are just getting it confused with the Phantom movie. You know, they're just mixing that up. But a few years ago, I did come across it, and there's Jack Kirby pencil sketches, because he was working, I think, for Hanna-Barbera at the time, because he did some of the stuff for like Thundar or whatever back then or something like that. But yeah, so that would have been really cool, you know, obviously. But
did you ever hear anything about Jack Kirby being related to Howard Stern?
No.
He was talking. My wife was telling me he was talking. He had about his cousin that worked at Marvel. He was older than him, way back in the day, and his name was Jack. But he didn't really get into like detail. I'm like, well, what other like old school Marvel guy that would be older than Howard Stern would be his cousin? That's the first thing I like. Jack Kirby, and I can't find anything out. I don't know if it's just a coincidence or him being stupid, you know. But that'd be kind of funny.
that would be bizarre.
But I can't find anything out about it. I'm like trying to Google it and stuff. I'm like trying to find the episode where he talked about it, but I don't know. That'd be kind of cool though. But there's another rumor. I do remember when I was a kid, though, another thing that I was told was that I listened to I'm 18 by Alice Cooper for years. And them telling me, and my cousins telling me it was Gene Simmons. It was Kiss and Gene Simmons singing I'm 18. And I think I had the 45 of it. Yeah, I did have the 45 at one time. And I'd jam on it. I'd be like, oh, this is a great Kiss song, you know? But like, I don't know what this Alice Cooper stuff means, but this is a cool Kiss song. So for years, I thought I'm 18 was Gene Simmons. And if you listen to it, you can kind of get into like a head of like a 5-6-year-old kid and be like, I can see how you could probably believe that. But that was one of my, probably a local rumor.
Well, Paul found out about it later when he did with that Dreamin' song or whatever.
Dreamin'.
I'd like
the rumor came true.
Yeah.
Except it was Paul singing. Another rumor I'd heard about Gene when I was little, and I think it had to do with probably just a spinoff of a Beatles rumor, was that the Gene that recorded on the first Kiss album and was on the cover of the first Kiss album was a different Gene than from Hotter Than Hell on, because he actually died in an accident during the first tour, in between the first tour and the Hotter Than Hell tour. And it was mostly because if you look at the cover of the album, of the first album, and some of the pictures of the band from that time, and then you look at Gene on the cover of Hotter Than Hell, it's like his face changed, his makeup changed. We have since known now that we've seen pictures unmasked of Gene in the studio, in Bell's studio, and it is Gene. And that Gene also lost a lot of weight. Gene was kind of pudgy when Kiss started, and Gene also lost weight and changed his makeup. They all developed their makeup over time. But yeah, that was a rumor, and it's kind of like the Beatles rumor that Paul McCartney died, and so has anybody ever, how backwards messages used to be real big, and everybody always point out an album that had a backwards message on it?
Sure.
Has anybody ever pointed out a Kiss song or a track of a Kiss track and told you, hey, this has backwards messages in it, and like played it for you?
I never heard Kiss. I always heard like Judas Priest, Motley Crue.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what else, but nobody really pinpointed Kiss at that time.
Yeah, no.
I used to hear the rumor that the Rock and Roll Hell or Rock and Roll Demons at the end of Destroyer, that it had backwards messages in it. And for the longest time, the only way I wouldn't listen to the record player that I had. It's like you couldn't play it backwards. It's because it was like belt driven. You couldn't make it like go into neutral and spin it backwards yourself. And so if you tried to spin it backwards, it would, and just needle bounce all over the place. So you couldn't play it backwards. And then after a while, I just kind of forgot about that rumor. But I've always thought to go back and like maybe backward mask that and see if there's anything in there, because it's basically just sound effects and Paul from Alive saying, looks like we're going to have a rock and roll party.
I think I did hear that. I think I do remember that now. I wouldn't spin it backwards, but I think I do remember someone telling me that probably freaked me out too, where I probably would not listen to it.
I'd heard the same thing. About the beginning of Radioactive from Gene, because it's got all that demonic stuff, and the person who's actually singing in Latin, I think, or singing in maybe some kind of different language. But I always thought it kind of sounded like, okay, this is a person that they recorded singing one way and then they reversed it. And so we're hearing the reverse of it. To me, honestly, this is my take on this. To me, honestly, if Kiss never did, and if anybody knows of an actual backward track in a Kiss album, on a Kiss song, put it in the comments, because I would love to know. But a band like Kiss, during the vinyl era, if they never took the opportunity of putting a backward track in somewhere, that's a miss. That's a miss for them, man. Could you imagine? But the controversy was already hot enough around them, Controversy was already hot enough with all the people and everything, just all the moms and everything.
I think the heyday of that was probably like the mid '80s, though, wasn't it?
Well, it was kind of starting, then, but it was starting whenever they started getting big, and the kids started 77, 78, 79 when I came in, and you go to a concert and 50% of the people that's in that concert are probably under the age of 15.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I was with a group of people, then, we were 10 and under.
Well, the whole Judas Priest thing was in the mid '80s, but it was about stained glass, right? The album. And that
Yeah.
came out.
Oh, you talking about backwards track being big
yeah,
in
the
the
backward stuff. Yeah.
No, it was big. It was kind of like there was some things like Chicago. There was rumored that Chicago, the little Nicky,
Chicago.
that Chicago had some backwards tracks on their stuff.
25062 Satan.
Big 6'6" Satan.
Saturday in hell.
There's a Led Zeppelin song, Kashmir, that when you back it up, they start talking about sweet Satan, and
Really?
I remember hearing that. I forgot about
Oh,
that.
wow.
my sweet Satan. That's like why the words are so weird in Kashmir.
So they got away with it for a while.
Donnie
and,
and Marie, I'm sure, have some.
Donnie and Marie for sure.
I'm a little bit country. You're a little bit satanic.
Captain and Tennille.
Yeah.
Captain and Tennille. I'm sure. Helen Reddy. I'm sure.
The devil will keep us together.
Yeah, the devil is everywhere. Devil. Harold and Kumar for
Yeah.
reference
What?
there.
The devil.
What? Hey, Joe. What? The devil.
Classic, man.
I'm gonna go play Jolene backwards and see what she really was.
Jolene. They're gonna be talking about cutting Jolene's head off and burying her in pieces in the backyard. Yeah.
Oh my God. Wait, let me write this down. I got an idea for a horror movie now.
Yeah, there you go.
Dolly Parton's a serial killer.
The only and I remember when we're getting off, but this is what the cool thing
No.
about these.
Not one bit.
No, we're not getting off yet. The album for Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, actually has a thing saying this album may contain backwards messages.
Yeah,
I think that's just a bunch of PR. There's nothing backwards. You can hear almost how backwards masking will sound, and you really can't unless they've gotten real clever, like maybe like Led Zeppelin did, which I don't think they were being that clever. I just think it's, hey, these words backwards sound like it's saying these things, but
Yeah.
it's still a little bit of a stretch that it actually is.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that was ever recorded backwards on some Kiss songs is like Ace Frehley's solo was recorded backwards.
Right.
There's some stuff on Carnival of Souls, some drum tracks that were recorded backwards.
Oh, yeah.
On I Walk Alone, the epic Bruce Kulick song. But the one backing track that the backwards track I actually remember hearing and playing for myself was on Prince's
At the
Purple
end.
Rain album
Yeah.
at the end.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't backwards tracking that's you can blatantly hear it when you play it backwards. It's talking about how are you? I'm fine because I know the Lord's coming soon, and I mean you can hear it. It's plain as day.
I remember that. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'd been cool if Kiss would have done some type of backwards masking, but they probably would have came up under even more heat.
Motley Crue didn't have to do anything because there was a pentagram right on the cover.
Yeah.
Right on the cover.
They were pretty
Right on the cover.
Shout at the devil.
Right on the cover. But if they were, because I remember listening to Shout at the Devil. I had it on vinyl, and I remember at the very first time that I heard in the beginning.
Yeah.
As soon as it got done and started playing Shout at the Devil, I hit neutral on my record player, and I started spinning it backwards because I'm like, okay, they've got to be something. If there's going to be backwards, it's going to be in this song here.
Is it here?
And
Is it here?
it's not. It's not there. So it's just
It's right
it
up.
sounds it sounds creepy backwards,
Yeah, bet. Yeah.
but
It's funny you say that because the Motley Crue thing just reminded me. I was just literally thinking about this the other day, but when I was now that's still a little later because I was in 7th grade at this time, so that 7th grade was like 92 for me. Okay, so I had a Motley Crue poster on my wall, but it was from that era, and it was the 4 of them, and they're like covered in blood, fake blood on their arms and everything.
Yeah.
My friend came over to my house, and I'd spent the night at his house, and he came over to my house and would spend the rest of the day there. His parents, his mom, his dad and his stepmom were super religious. So when he walked in my room and saw that, and she was coming down the hall, she was going to say, "Oh, I want to see your room." And he was literally like, kind of against the wall, like, "Oh yeah, this is Becky's room," like he was all like, "You can't have that up." I was like, "Why?" He said, "She's going to freak out." And of course, he was the guy who like went crazy like 2 years later and like got sent to like a super religious private school because he like was caught drinking and doing drugs at school and stuff.
You can only hold those kids back so much, man. You gotta let them breathe a little bit.
I know.
I thought you were getting ready to say it was like the poster fell off the wall on you and scared you like that poster did AJ.
The love gun poster, man.
Man, that was the scariest thing in the world. You'd be laying there in your room in the middle of the night, you're laying there asleep, and you hear a poster start to come off the wall.
Wake you right up.
You wake up and you're looking around.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you hear it fall and you literally jump out of the bed because
especially
did a poster fall or did somebody just walk into your room?
Especially Gene back there with that look. That's a scary.
Yeah.
I got to find out. I mean, they have that poster on eBay, but I'm not going to pay like a bunch of crazy money for an old yellow piece of paper.
Yeah.
Because mine got destroyed because either me or my mom just crumbled up and threw it.
You went 2 rounds with it when it came off the wall.
Oh man, it was bad because she wouldn't let me put like tacks or nothing in the wall, so you had to put like shitty tape, and it was the walls would sweat and it pop right off. You hear click, 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 in the middle of the night. Can I sleep with you guys? Can I sleep with you guys? No. Crying at 2:00 in the morning,
Gene keeps coming off the wall at me.
Come to get me. Gene's coming. That's probably how I had those fever dreams with Gene Simmons' boots trying to get me. Where I'd be falling in those boots back there. Be like in the background. And I had, I had like 100.
They've been listening to you all these years because that was the inspiration for Tears Are Falling. I mean,
yeah, they were. They were. Plus 104 temperature didn't help either. Yeah, I'd have fever dreams where Gene's boots were. I'd be falling. Gene's boots were chasing me. Good times.
Good times. And hey, hold on a second here. Hold on. Look up here at this knucklehead.
And probably at the 11th hour too.
Well, that's all, folks.
That's pretty good. Thanks, everyone.
That's all right. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Well, we got to start over again. Are you recording, Brent? We got to erase it and start over real quick. You got to name three things, Rob. So go over real quick for me, Brent. We're going to interview you.
So this is what we've been talking about. Name some rumors that you heard about Kiss when you were a kid.
Kiss World Museum amusement park.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
See?
Gene's tongue was actually a cow's tongue.
This is funny, dude.
And Gene Simmons was actually married to what's her name?
Cher?
No. Another Playboy model. Howard Stern had got her name wrong when they were promoting. Instead of saying Shannon Tweed, he said, I cannot think of her name, but they're promoting Alive 3. They went on the Howard Stern show. Jessica Hahn.
Oh, geez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'd rather be married to Shannon Tweed.
I had heard that for years before
wow.
that. So I was like, oh, okay, well and then I heard, oh, he must have got divorced from Jessica Hahn and with this, Tweed girl. And then I realized, oh no, that was a complete rumor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear put in the comments any other rumors that you've heard.
Yeah,
if you've heard
for
these
sure.
Variations of these, and put it down in the comments.
I'm sure I'm missing some.
Yeah, maybe we can take if someone says some, let's take a screenshot and put it on Instagram and see if people comment or whatever.
Oh yeah. We'll do that. We'll definitely do that. All right. So, who wants to go next? Matthew, you want to go next?
Sure. So I had mentioned this in our chat to you guys, and I'm going to give the little backstory of how this topic has come about. But we went on vacation recently. My family, we took my son to the beach and everything because he's about to leave to go into the Navy. So we want to do a little family trip. And I haven't been to the beach in Florida in many years. So it got me reminiscing about going to Florida as a kid, going to Panama City Beach, Florida.
I couldn't tell. You're so dark.
Yeah, I know. Right. Yeah. Don't go very often, obviously.
Sorry. Go ahead. Proceed.
No. I like the blazing cattle thing there.
I don't do that. So you want chocolate or vanilla ice cream? What do you want?
Hey, my wife, I don't know if it'll show up. My wife said, you need to quit. You need to start taking your watch off when you go outside.
Yeah.
Y'all see that?
In fact, you want to see something really white. All right. You can cut that out.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah, so back to my wholesome story. So we when I remember I was in third grade because I remember where we were living at the time. So I was probably around 8 or so. We went to Panama City Beach, and as per the norm, you get one of those cheesy airbrush shirts with your name on it or whatever. I got one, but I wanted my name on the back of it because we had gone to a store earlier that day, and I found the Creatures patch, the square patch, So, keep in mind that we're talking like this around 87 or so. I couldn't find any shirts of any bands I like that would fit me, of course, So I told my mom, I was like, can you sew that on the front? That'll be my Kiss shirt with my name on the back, And so this got reminiscing about this. I had this shirt until I grew out of it and everything. And I wish I cut the patch off and saved it, but I didn't. So somebody at Goodwill got a bootleg Kiss shirt that says Matthew on the back.
Nice.
But so it got me thinking about that was probably at that time, that was probably one of my favorite Kiss albums because I had never gotten the original one, but I gotten the reissue with the the Bruce Kulick on the cover, with the unmasked, version. So I had listened to that a whole bunch. And so that was like one of my favorites. So that got me thinking. And we've been Kiss fans since we were kids. So what were your 3 favorite Kiss albums as a kid? And how does that compare to what your favorite Kiss albums are now? Like, has it stayed the same? Has it changed? I mean, obviously there have been other releases since then, but I mean, has maybe an older album garnered your attention more over the years that you didn't really care for as a kid? So, so I tell you, Brant, you go first this time.
Oh, okay. Probably, let's see. As a kid, it's okay. It's trying to find a cutoff age for me being a kid. Okay.
I haven't reached it yet.
Yeah, me neither. I'm shooting for 50.
I'm just gonna say probably up to where I kind of in the mid 80s where I took a little bit of a hiatus. I wasn't really so much of a kid anymore. So I'd probably say before that, from 7 until about 13, my favorite album was, I've always loved Alive 2, and Alive 2 was my favorite album at the time when I was a kid. From when it came out, I loved it, and it was probably my number 1 favorite album when I was a kid. My number 2 favorite album when I was a kid was probably Creatures. Creatures was just another one of those hard and heavy albums that I loved. And I was really a big fan. So number 3 is I was a big fan of Dynasty when I was a kid. That came out, the solo albums came out, right there when I was in my heyday, 8, 9, and 10 years old of being a Kiss fan. So those 3 would probably have been my favorites growing up. Now my favorites is probably I still love Kiss Alive 2. Kiss Alive 2 is probably my desert island album. It's like you you have one album, one Kiss album that you can listen to for the rest of your life, what album will it be? It would be Kiss Alive 2, because that's always going to take me back to being that young Kiss fan that didn't have the internet, that didn't know what Kiss looked like with their makeup off, that had all the magic and all of those things about it that makes it my favorite album. My second favorite Kiss album now, though, is probably Revenge. I think Revenge is an awesome album, and it's great. It's a great post-makeup album, probably one of the best post-makeup albums. My third favorite Kiss album is probably Ace Frehley's solo album, because it wasn't a solo album. It wasn't an album that was real big to me when I was a kid, because I was a Peter Criss fan and my sister was more of an Ace fan. So I let her, it sounds childish and weird, but I let her like Ace things and I like, Peter things. Now I got to watch how I say things like that with AJ in the room. But
He likes Peter things.
I like Peter.
What are you talking about?
Hey, that's the kind of sugar Papa likes.
It should have been renamed to Drive Me Crazy. You can check out my video with John B. Good. We talk about that very thing.
There you go.
That's kind of sugar Papa likes. Just sounds very
Did you
pedophile.
get my review last week of the other day I sent you?
of that album?
Of the Peter Criss album?
Yeah, I got it.
That's my mixer. Did you see that, Matt?
I didn't see that.
Okay, I'll send it to you. My way to fix the Peter Criss album.
I gotta check that out. Yeah.
Is it the way you fixed it before?
Yeah. Well, damn near.
It was.
Vinyl records are hard to break when you're 5 years old.
To the garbage.
The hell with it. Scratch it.
Snap.
I'll just scratch it.
Especially the older vinyl records. The older vinyl records were like wobble, wobble, wobble. You could literally bend it in half and it not break. But it'd be on the turntable like this the next time.
See, and they stand up to all that, but they can't stand up to a heat vent.
That's right.
That's right. So those are probably my my three favorite now.
All right, AJ, what about you?
Actually, very close to Brant. Well, if you think about it, when did Smashes came out? What, 87?
80,
right?
Yeah, 88 maybe.
And when was Hot in the Shade? 89?
89, 90.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I was still kind of a kid though when I kind of took a break. So that was, if it was 89, I was 14.
Yeah.
So I was still kind of a kid. I didn't pick up Revenge when it came out. I did pick up the videos because I saw I'm like, well, that's the only way you're going to see like old Kiss stuff is exposed or extreme close up or whatever, Kiss My Ass I had on Laserdisc.
Yeah.
So I was still kind of a kid. So when I was a kid, number one for sure, the one that started it all, Kiss Alive 2. I've been into that album for how many years? 40, since I was 5, 42 years, 43 years. That album's been my go-to album, and I have never stopped loving it. So,
I love Kiss Alive too.
I
love Kiss Alive also.
Well, that was the thing. I only had a pretty good handful though, growing up until a certain point. Then I started getting like tapes and stuff like that. But I had Destroyer on 8 tracks. So Destroyer I still love Destroyer. I get like really like summer vibes from it. You know how Rick always talks about like summer album. Like that's my summer album. I'm pointing it's over like you guys see that album right there. You see it?
Yeah.
That's my summer album. That's been like up there ever since. Probably the same thing. Probably 42, 43 years. Had it on an 8 track, and probably number 3. That's Creatures. I go Creatures. Creatures of the Night because I got it when it first came out. I still have the original. It's scratched to hell. It's all beat to shit, but I still have my original copy. And just the heaviness of it
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, man, is this Kiss? This is really Kiss? Well, it kind of was. not the Kiss on the cover, but
Yeah.
but yeah, those when I was a kid for sure, those three, and I probably had, I don't know, 7 albums at the time, maybe 8. So now still Kiss Alive 2 for sure. Ace Frehley's solo album, it moved up once I had more understanding of like his, like as a guitar player, how awesome his solo album is. And I'd have to thank Rick for Dynasty now, because I have a whole new appreciation for his love for it, and finally listening to it, because when the first time I heard it, I'm like, all right, I was made for loving you. I got the disco song and stuff, but I have a whole new respect for the album, and then I probably listened to that in the past few years more than any of them. Just throw on Dynasty, So it's there's, and the other ones are still close, Destroyer and Creatures, but Alive 2, Aces, and Dynasty now, and Alive 2, Dynasty, and Creatures when I was a kid. So
Right.
I don't dig change too much.
Now we're pretty close to all on the same page here. So as a kid, Alive 2 was my favorite. I mean, I don't even remember where I got a copy of that, but I had the book in it and everything. And
Yeah,
I know I got this sometime around 86 or 87. I have no idea where I got it from, but I used to listen to it all the time. I mean, I loved it. And I even loved the, studio side, I mean, I'm in the minority. I love the cover of Any Way You Want It. I love it.
You are. You are in the minority.
You are in the minority.
But
you are soundly placed in the minority.
So I listened to that a lot, and Creatures, like I mentioned, that was another one because I got it new with that cover and everything. So around that same time frame, I was listening to that a lot, and one that I always loved was because it was the first Kiss album I ever got as a kid, even was Love Gun. That was always one of my favorites, and I was telling Rick this before about. I always felt like that album, like it perfectly represents Kiss. That's the first album where all 4 of them sing a song on it. Yeah. So I was like, if I ever recommended a Kiss album to someone, like an older Kiss album, I said, go to Love Gun first. Try that.
Yeah, definitely a good start.
Yeah. So those were my top 3 as a kid. I mean, I can say, as I got a little older, I say a little older because I think I was 12 or 13 when Revenge came out. And we had talked about before, I kind of dropped off after Crazy Nights. I wasn't listening to Kiss a whole lot. I still liked them, of course, but, I was listening to other stuff then. I was listening to, LA Guns and Guns N' Roses and Metallica and stuff, but Revenge came out, and I was like, whoa, okay. Mm-hmm. Here's where they've been, and Kiss My Ass came out now, so I got back into really like around the time I was in like 8th grade or so, 7th, 8th grade, listening to Kiss more, where there was a span of like maybe 4 years I wasn't listening to them a whole lot.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I can say, yeah, Kiss Alive 2 is still, still going to be at the top, just like you said, Brent. It's like a Desert Island album. It's going to stay with me forever, and just like AJ said, the Ace Frehley solo album, that's up there too. That's probably my second now, because honestly, I didn't hear much of it when I was a kid. The only solo album I really heard as a kid was Jeans, because that's the one that I got because, I was thinking it was going to be so awesome and everything. And, well, as a kid, it wasn't that awesome. But so I didn't hear Ace's solo album until I got it on CD, when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is that's a classic sounding Kiss album to me. Mm-hmm. That and Paul's have, obviously have the most Kiss sound. Right. So that's been bumped up to number 2. And number 3, I got to say a tie, and it's for the same reasons that AJ gave. I've gained a new appreciation over the past few years for Dynasty and Unmasked because of Rick.
Yeah.
I listened to I didn't really listen to those much when I was younger, and because those were like, they were the disco, the poppy ones and all that. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm older and whatever, I love him now. I listen to him and I love him, and I unapologetically love Unmasked. I think it's got some really catchy songs on it. So that's like tied for number 3. And like you said, Creatures is still up there. Like I would say those are my top 3 with the tie at number 3. But everything from 4, ranking 4 to like 8 is still right up there. I mean, and Creatures is up there. Revenge would be up there. So my list hasn't deviated that much. I still like and appreciate them, but some of those dark horses from when I was a kid have been
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, my kid starts in 1989, so
that's fine.
I'm 17 years old by that point. 16, freshman in high school, probably 15. So it was Hot in the Shade. Then it went, after I got Hot in the Shade, I was like, oh, I need to find out more about this Eric Carr person that I think is so cool. So somebody said, oh, go check out Creatures. So I went backwards and got Creatures. And then The Elder was the next one that I got. So I had Hot in the Shade, Creatures, and The Elder talk about a change. But I wanted all these like focal points, like, oh, I want Eric Carr's first one. And that's one of those. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to like music from The Elder. And I loved it. Because those are the only ones that I knew. So I thought, oh, this just must be what Kiss is.
That's when that "you sure about that" meme pops up. I want to hear The Elder. You sure about that?
Are you sure about that?
I'm gonna go to junior high and tell everybody how cool I think the song "Shandy" is. You sure about that? Are you sure about that?
So what was the second part? How has my taste changed as far as
what's your favorite 3 Kiss albums?
Kiss albums now? Yeah.
Favorite 3. So this will spoil our show. I haven't said this yet. So Revenge is number 1. If you ask me on any given day, Carnival of Souls may take the number 1 spot. And then I'm wishy-washy. It's either Creatures or Hot in the Shade. Like that first Kiss album, I have a hard time. I know it's 15 songs, but there are some days Read My Body just hits just right. And I know I shouldn't like that. But if I from my gut, I would probably say it's Creatures, because I went head over heels in that box set, and just every ounce of that book I could read, and seeing all those images that I never saw before. So yeah, it's probably those 3. I will say Revenge, Carnival, Creatures.
There was a couple albums I never had. I didn't have on record. I didn't have on tape. I didn't have on CD. And when I got older, I tried to pick up some ones I never had before. And that was one of them. And then like The Elder, And see, look, where Unmasked is now.
Yeah, exactly. I started getting more of an appreciation for Unmasked when they released the Kissology Volume 2. And it had like some of the TV performances and the live stuff from overseas and everything. Yeah. So that's when I started listening to it more, and I was like, yeah, this is not too bad. And then like you said, Rick has a love of Dynasty and Unmasked, that era and everything, and that kind of his love for those things is infectious. You can't help but appreciate it when he points out everything great about him.
He's quite the influencer, that guy.
He is.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Is there an album that pops to your head like immediately without even thinking about it that you didn't care so much for when you were younger, or at a previous time that you actually really enjoy right now?
The Elder. The Elder. Peter Criss. As much shit as I give it, Peter Criss is I just get flashbacks when I was 5 years old. What the hell is this? Like, what is this? But Peter said Elder for sure. Unmasked, that for sure. Those fall in that category for me, 100%.
I can say Gene's solo. I mean, I appreciate it and like it now, But as a kid, thinking I'm going to go into a full album of God of Thunder, and it's like, oh no, I got Pinocchio soundtrack. What the hell's going on?
Especially you get like the little blood and like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, this is gonna be There's
blood on the cover. This is gonna be good. And that was another one I never heard all the way through until later on in life when I was buying Kmart would have those Sound Saver tapes,
Yes,
like whatever they were, $4.99 or whatever they were, and I picked up pretty much every one of my of Kiss that even the ones I had on vinyl already,
Yeah.
except for a couple. But I'm like, oh well, I'll get the Ace. I can finally hear all of Ace. I can finally hear all of Gene's. They're only $5 or whatever. And the Gene one still is like,
I remember being, as a kid, disappointed with Crazy Nights as well.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like at the time I was, because I bought them all when they came out, even when I was young. I went from Lick It Up to Animalize to Asylum, and then I was super hyped for Crazy Nights because we actually had MTV then, so I would watch the premiere of the video of Crazy Nights video, and I still have that. I have it on burned on
really?
now. But yeah, so I was all excited. By the time I heard the full album, I was like, it's just okay, I mean, now I mean, I like it, I appreciate it. It's not at the top, but it's not at the bottom.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I was like, coming off the high of those 3 albums, to me, I was like, this is just okay. But again, it might have been a thing too, where at that point I was listening to stuff like, because that came out around the same time frame as like, Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
And And Justice for All was knocking around that same time too. So it was like some of the stuff I was listening to was, leaning more towards the heavier side and not so much like the Bon Jovi side.
Right. Well, the first LA Guns was 87, 88, wasn't it?
87, 88. Yeah, around there. Yeah. Yeah. So I was listening to a lot of that stuff then.
Yeah. So much good, heavier sleaze LA music coming. And then even during that time, you had bands like Tesla coming out and all these other bands coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what about you, AJ? Did you answer?
What's that?
Oh, you did.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
Probably for me, that I have gained appreciation for lately, probably within the last 5 years, would probably be Crazy Nights and Hot in the Shade.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to listen to them several times extensively for reviews, and actually found myself going to and searching for and putting those albums on, even when I'm not needing to review.
Yeah.
And Monster's kind of grown on me. I've always liked Sonic Boom, even though Sonic Boom I really didn't listen to it for a long time.
Yep.
For the very first time I heard it, I listened to it with my ears and not my eyes, and I thought it was a very decent album. And I couldn't get into Monster as much as I could Sonic Boom, but whenever I had to get into to extensively to do my recent video I did where we did Sonic Monster, and I really enjoyed Monster. Yeah. So it's kind of come, kind of grew on me a little bit. But albums like Dynasty and The Elder and
there we go.
I love those. I love those back in the day. What'd you say, Matthew?
I said sponsorship, Monster. We really like Monster.
We really like Monster.
Well, I listened to
sponsorship, bottled water.
I listened to Crazy Nights a lot because that was the very first cassette tape I got when I moved from records to cassette tapes. That was my very first tape I got. So it holds a special place in my heart, Crazy Nights.
But the first cassette I bought of Kiss was the first album, and I had every intention. I was going to buy every one of them on cassette.
Yeah.
And I didn't get past the first one. The next one, I think the next one I bought on cassette was probably
Hot in the Shade?
No, I on cassette, probably the next one I bought was Revenge. It was that many years.
Oh, wow.
I still bought some on record, on vinyl. But yeah, so then there was that little period where I was buying everything on cassette before I started buying everything on CDs. So
right, I know, yeah, same. Now I'm buying stuff on record again.
Yeah, I know.
The first Kiss album, this will trip you out. The first Kiss album that I bought on cassette was Revenge. When it came out.
Yeah.
When it came out, I bought it Revenge. When it came out, I bought it on cassette because everything all the way up to Asylum I had bought on vinyl.
Right.
And then I didn't buy Hot in the Shade or Crazy Nights, and I bought Revenge and Revenge was kind of the first one that I came back to, and I bought it on cassette because CDs were out, but I didn't own a CD player at the time because the CD player was like $400 back then.
Yeah.
When they first came out. So But yeah, I remember buying Revenge on CD.
That
All
was
right.
good times.
Good times.
I
And
was
now,
always,
and
I was
yeah,
always
now,
still too.
and now, funny thing is, as I'm actually starting to, when I walk into record stores now and I look for Kiss vinyl, if they either don't have something I like or they have something that I already have and I don't want to buy another copy of, unless it's better than something I have or there's something unique about it, like it's sealed or something like that.
Yeah.
I've now started going over and looking into the CDs and cassettes because I'm working on going down the rabbit hole of rebuilding my cassette and CD Kiss collection.
Oh God, no, can't do it. All I want to get is my Destroyer on the white 8-track again.
Oh yes,
And I know it's out there. It's just like I want mine though.
you want?
There's a really.
There it is.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. Yeah.
You have initials on there? Any initials on there?
Let's see. Hey Jay,
Yeah, that's me. Send it. Send it.
dude, I'm telling you right now, if this had your initials on it, it would be in the mail to you tomorrow. I'm telling you, because I paid like $3 for it.
Oh, see,
Um,
I just hope one day. And when I still look, what is it? The Love Gun Man with the Pac-Man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We'll find it.
And the
Well,
thing
fine.
is, I think I know who has those, and he probably still has them because it's a guy I knew growing up named Andy, and he lives the next town over. I haven't seen him in many years, but he was a huge Kiss fan,
Yeah.
and he bought a bunch of those from that yard sale. So I'm pretty sure he still has all those, at least 5 or 6 Kiss albums with Pac-Man drawn as a member with them. So.
man, it's amazing holding these two 8-tracks, the Destroyer and Alive.
Mm-hmm.
This is so light compared to this one. This one's chunky, man, because this is the whole album.
Really?
Like, they put the whole
wow.
album on one 8-track.
Holy cow!
Yeah, it's crazy. Because Kiss Alive 2, it's got Volume 1 and Volume 2,
Yeah,
double platinums,
right.
Volume 1, Volume 2. Kiss Alive, one tape.
Wow.
I've never found an 8-track, a Kiss 8-track, and well, yeah, I have. I found these in the wild, but I got extremely lucky finding these. I've actually started kind of shopping for 8-tracks on eBay because I would like to. Some of the 8-tracks I had when I was a kid, I didn't have a whole lot of 8-tracks. I collected mostly vinyl. But I remember at one point in time, I had all 4 solo albums, not only on album, but on 8-track.
Nice.
And I had Dynasty on 8-track and on album. And the reason why, and here's the funny thing, it's like being that young, being 9, 10 years old, it's like, why did you have 2 copies? Well, you couldn't listen to the album in the car.
Right.
So my mom, a lot of times, she would initially buy me the vinyl because she knew that the vinyl would have something in it, like a poster or an insert or a merch form or something like that, that the 8-track didn't. And then she would, after I had the vinyl, if I wanted the 8-track to listen to in the car in my grandmother's green LTD tank, if she wanted us to, then she would get me the 8-track so I could listen to Kiss in the car. So,
Well, I told you my my double platinum story with the 8-track, right?
No.
Me and my mom, we went to a yard sale, and I saw double platinum on 8-track, but it was just the one. I'm sure there was 2, right?
Yeah.
Here's 2.
All right. Well, it was like 50 cents. So she bought it for me. I went home and put it in the player. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. There's no sound. I'm hitting like the next program button. Nothing. Next. Nothing. Next. Nothing. I pull it out and there's no tape in there.
Oh.
It was empty. So I told
wow.
my mom, I'm like, we went back to that yard sale and she got her 50 cents back. In hindsight, she should have kept it because that would have been kind of cool to keep. But she's like, no, I'm not paying for that. There's nothing in there. So she went back and she got her 50 cents back.
Are you sure there wasn't anything in it, or was it broke? Did you open it up?
I don't know. No, I didn't open it up, but yeah, it could have been broke.
Because
But
I used to be a master at splicing those things back together. A little Scotch tape and a
now you tell me.
razor blade.
Find that yard sale. Go back to their house. Hey,
I need it back.
quarters. I want that back.
They'd be like, okay, now it's going to cost you $50.
I think it was kind of light, but it could have been just broke. But I don't know. I was like, we went back though. She got her money back.
8-tracks were notorious for eating because most people didn't have the head cleaner.
Yeah,
and the take up wheel would get gummy from the residue, and it would just pull that tape up in there. And most of the time, even if it was broke, you had section that was missing. I remember one time I can't remember which one it was. I know that at one point in time I had a Live 2 on tape because there's a part of Calling Dr. Love where it goes from channel 1 to channel 2. It fades out. And it's during that part where Gene's going, yeah. And Peter's, yeah, they call me, after the solo.
Yeah.
And it would fade out and then it would fade out right back in where it started fading out at. So you really didn't miss part of the song. But I remember one time it broke, and I think I lost probably a lot of several songs because it spewed off, probably 3 feet of the record, the tape that you couldn't put it all back together. So you just put it back together. So you'd be listening to that, and it'd be like halfway into a song, and it would just skip to the next song.
Well, some of those were sneaky because it would just get like a little muffled.
Yeah,
you could. I'm like, why does it sound so muffled? You pull it out.
Or start speeding up on you.
Yeah.
Pull it out. It's like,
damn.
Ridiculous. All right. So my topic is, and I'm not doing this to create division or anything like that, but I was just curious. I'm just curious. And anybody else, any of these discussions, you're down in the comments, your 3, the albums that you loved when you were a kid, 3 albums you love now, feel free to interact down in the comments with us. So my topic, taken away, you can't pick the original era of the band. You can't pick Gene, Paul, Ace, Peter. Name your 3 favorite eras of the band, 3 different versions of the band outside of the original.
Okay.
3.
Well, I figured we wouldn't just say we got to have a discussion. So if you've only got one, you can just say, "Oh, dude, I've just got one."
Outside of the original?
No, outside the original.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
who wants to go first? Matthew.
all right. Well, the first one that comes to mind was a really cool time when I was a kid, even though it was the shitty album. Was the Elder era when Eric Carr came in.
Mm-hmm.
That I really like that look. I really like that, all the everything about it. It's just an unfortunate album, but that one was really cool to me, especially because that's a lot of the stuff I saw for the first time was around that era. So, I got into them like 70, I don't know, probably got to be 80, 79, 80. I don't know for sure exactly. So I started seeing them on TV probably around 80, 81.
Mm-hmm.
So 81, 82, you start seeing because they weren't doing any promotion as far as I know on TV for like Unmasked. So I saw like the Solid Gold appearance, the Fridays appearance.
That was a good time.
The Kids Are People Too. I don't know. That was probably, when did that come out? Was that between Unmasked and Elder? I think
post Dynasty,
right?
Ace was still in the band
when they introduced Eric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was 80. So
80 years, yeah. So that was probably, I saw that, but when they got that new look, I was kind of shocked, but I kind of liked it too because it's kind of cool because they look like new
Freaking
wave.
headband on Paul though. Who told him that was a good look?
Richard Simmons.
Olivia Newton-John.
Paul singing "Let's Get Physical."
The physical. So that's my first one for sure. I don't. I have to think about any more though.
And so that lasted one album basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
One album. We got
but it was
the
a
elder
magical
out of
time
that.
for a kid. That was a magical time because it seemed like you didn't see him a lot. I heard him a lot, but I never really seen him a lot. So
I mean, I think you could argue, yeah, it lasted one album, but that kind of spilled over into Creatures from our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because for all intents and purposes, that was still Eric and Ace there.
mhm.
Yeah, spilling. I mean, at least visually it was.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
We never got a tour out of it. And Ace wasn't actually on the album,
yeah.
but
We had a video, and
we had a
the
video out
album
of it.
cover. So
Sometimes I wonder if Ace would have just held on just a little longer, got through
know.
Creatures,
I
got
know.
through Creatures, got through Lick It Up. I mean, that's a big what if,
Yeah.
So yeah, what about you? What about we'll see if Matthew if AJ can think of another one. What about one for you, Matthew?
I would agree that out of if I'm naming three, that's probably my number one too. My three, I know my three, and they're all very close for different reasons. But I agree with everything AJ said. It would be that era with Eric. I loved Eric Carr, I still do. And I think if that was just a better album for him and Ace to really play off each other with and everything,
Yeah.
I think that could have been really great. But yeah, visually, I the new looks, I kind of liked it. It looked, especially when you see those promo shots of them with the white background,
Yeah,
it looked very futuristic.
Mhm.
This was like Future Kiss kind of thing,
like Mad Max Kiss or something. Beyond like
Yeah.
Kiss.
Yeah, it was very, everything was very sleek and very clean, and it was like it was different, but
Yeah.
and but see, I didn't hear all of Elder, but I saw Fridays when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and the live performance of those songs are really good and really heavy,
Right.
like especially and everything. It's like,
Mhm.
and so I would agree with everything you said. That's probably up there, probably my top one. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. An era. It's sitting here. I was thinking. I was like, do we actually technically have a Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, and Anton Fig era between Dynasty and Unmasked? I mean, technically.
Go with it.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I think my favorite era, I think I've said this before, my favorite era outside the original is probably Eric Singer. Nothing against Eric Carr, but Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick, when the two of them were in the band together, they put out Revenge. They put out Carnival of Souls. It was a heck of a tour. The Revenge tour, the Alive 3 album, and Live 3 is actually coming up on an anniversary, and who knows, maybe hopefully we're kind of fingers crossed and hoping that we get some kind of deluxe treatment on that album, because Kiss has been kind of skimpy with releases this year. We've only gotten Poughkeepsie and what was it? Poughkeepsie and what was the other one? What? No, it was Alive 3. Wasn't it Alive 3 that we've gotten?
It was this year.
Yeah. It was this year. So we've got those two. So that was this year. So I'm just kind of curious to see what else will happen. But I really like that the way that Eric and Bruce played off of each other and seemed to push Gene and Paul. I would have loved to have seen if they would have allowed Eric Carr along with Bruce Kulick to do that type of
Yeah.
what they did later on.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, because you had with those guys, with even though Animalize was Mark St. John, he technically didn't really play on too many of the shows. So you had the Carr Kulick era was basically coming off of Animalize, then Asylum, then Crazy Nights, then Hot in the Shade. That was a big run of those 4 albums, but I kind of fell off the wagon couple of those albums in. And it wasn't because of the musicianship of the band. It's just I really didn't like the direction that they were going. And like Matthew said earlier, there was a bunch of other bands out at that time that was kind of stealing my attention. So, but yeah, I'd probably say that my favorite era outside the original era is probably the Singer Kulick era.
Yeah, that's a solid one for sure.
Do you have another one that you like, AJ?
Thinking about it, another one based on like the visual. I really like the Creatures era with Vinnie Vincent with his makeup. Bless you.
Sorry.
With his makeup, because the first time I saw that as a kid. I'm like, who is this guy? I was like, is this Ace? Like, who is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea really, because I didn't know what the hell was going on when was it, 83? So I was what, 8, 7, 8?
Right.
So I like that look too, and even that tour or the Brazil one where Paul's just wearing like the T-shirt, and Vinny's got the cool whatever the hell he's supposed to be. I don't know what it was when I was a kid. He's an onk or whatever. I'm like, what the hell is an uncle? I'm like, what is that? Like
an onk. I got an uncle too.
Yeah, right. I mean that was really cool for me because once again I was a little kid and I was seeing them, finally one way or another, and then Lick It Up came around. And that's Lick It Up's a great album. So we'll go with the Creatures tour look with Vinny and in the makeup and Eric. So yeah, that's one for sure. That's up there for me. Good memories there.
Yeah. I'd probably say that's my number 2 as well. What about you, Matthew?
I'm going to go back to your number 1, Brant. The Bruce Kulick, Eric Singer era. I know. I mean, you're talking like it was only like 5 years maybe or so.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
But the direction of that point, and they were going heavier and everything, and I really like Carnival of Souls as much as I like Revenge and everything. And I don't know if it was what it was really. Did Eric kind of rejuvenate him a little, bring some more life into it or something, but just I think like you were saying though, like the way Eric and Bruce were playing, they sped everything up a little, kind of like Eric Carr did, back in his early days. They were making Paul and Gene kind of like, pushing them, come on, let's give them more of a show, let's get, but that was a good era, I think. And I like the visually how they looked. They were, they got away from the neon and we're back in like the leather, and so I can agree with that. So that's probably my second,
Yeah, and I would probably say that my third is kind of like AJ's. It's nothing against Eric Carr. I think Eric Carr is a phenomenal guitarist, or not guitarist. He's a phenomenal drummer, and Bruce is an amazing guitarist. It's just that although I like Animalize and I like Asylum, and I liked them back in the day. I look at what albums I liked more, and I liked Creatures more, and I liked Lick It Up more. So I would have to say that my third era would probably, even though it was very short, I saw the Creatures tour. We were expecting Ace, and we didn't get Ace, and I saw the Lick It Up tour, and I loved the band being without the makeup, and the songs off of Lick It Up are just amazing. And just hard rock songs, and feel like Kiss being themselves. I felt like with Kiss being with Creatures And with Lick It Up, they still had that attitude. And it was before they started. Then when they started getting to Asylum and Animalize, they were still kind of, okay, we're being ourselves. Asylum and definitely went by the time they got to Crazy Nights and Hot in the Shade. Crazy Nights especially, you felt like they were chasing that Bon Jovi train. And even with Hits, trying to be like a little bit maybe like Def Leppard on some of the songs, still being themselves, but trying to just kind of toss their hat in on some of the songs, trying to sound like other bands. And I like when Kiss is, and I don't mind Kiss trying to do things that sound like other bands, because a lot of people says, well, Carnival of Souls sounds like grunge. Carnival of Souls sounds like Alice in Chains. Well, Alice in Chains produced it, so they should sound like grunge. They should, sound like Alice in Chains. Goal achieved. But that's sometimes I like it when Kiss is trying to do something different, and sometimes I like it when Kiss is just trying to be themselves. I'm one of those fans that I'm kind of weird when it comes to. It's like, oh well, you can like Carnival of Souls, but you can't like Kiss trying to sound like Bon Jovi. Well, no, because I like the sound the band's trying to sound like Carnival, like grunge bands a lot more than a band trying to sound like Bon Jovi. One Bon Jovi's all we need.
That's right.
We don't need another one.
We don't need another for me.
We don't need another one. Never did. Never did need another Bon Jovi.
That's right. Don't need.
But
any,
yes,
no.
So that was a real good era with even though it was very short lived, just due to Vinny and his issues with Gene and Paul and their issues with him. Vinny was a solid player for them. He was a solid player for them a solid writer for them on Creatures and on Lick It Up and on Revenge. And you think about 3 really killer albums. There's the outside of the people playing on the albums, the people that's writing the albums, there's one common thread, and that's Mr. Vincent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably my third era. So this is what we've been talking about. We were just finishing up the conversation. Outside of the original era, outside of the original 4 members, name your 3 favorite versions of the band.
Bruce Kulick, Eric Carr version, Bruce Kulick, Eric Singer, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent.
Dude, that's very close to the ones we just said.
Yeah.
Carnival.
Love
I
it.
love
How long did
Carnival
you
too.
sit in the studio without me seeing you, Rob?
I forget what you guys were talking about. I think it was the tail end of a Vinny conversation. So I've only probably been here 5 minutes.
Oh,
and
okay.
I realized I could have added myself in. I thought, I don't want to screw it up if you guys were.
That would have been awesome if you just popped in out of nowhere before I saw you. Like, poof, I'm here.
You're like Kazoo.
Right. Hello, dum-dums.
Hello, Dum Dum. That would have been perfect.
That'd have been awesome. Okay, let's rewind. Let's try it again.
Nice.
Well, I'm
Well,
glad you could show up for at least something.
Yeah, I did have I had a half topic prepared. I've always wanted to say this.
Okay, well, you're here. Then you get to do your topic.
Okay. This may be really quick. So if you're not a musician, this probably won't work. But being a drummer, I was always fascinated by the drum kits and other the actual instruments. I think a lot of people talk about the band and the costumes, but the instruments, like Peter Criss's Destroyer drum set or Paul Stanley's Iceman back in '77. Do you have a favorite instrument by any one of the members? Like favorite drum set, favorite lead guitar, favorite, Gene's bass, that type of thing.
100%.
Sure.
100%. I got Ace Frehley's Sunburst Les Paul.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's iconic. And if I was going to play guitar, I'm like, that's the guitar I want, even though it weighs like 300 pounds.
It's a beast.
Yeah, my uncle's got one actually, and it's beautiful. So I'm like, you got Ace's guitar, huh? He's like, yeah. All right, yeah. He's not a Kiss fan. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
that usually makes you mad. Like, I just bought it 'cause it's like,
well, if you're not going to appreciate it, can I have it?
right.
That's mine though, for sure. And that's whenever I see the guitar anywhere, like I'm like, there's Ace's guitar.
Mhm.
For sure. That's mine.
I'm not a musician at all, but my dad played drums, and I always loved Eric's Tank drum set.
Oh yeah.
I always thought it was really cool. And I will say this, non-Kiss related, I'll throw in there, as a comic book fan, I always loved Dan Spitz's guitars and Anthrax. He had like Ninja Turtles on it and all that stuff. I thought that was great because at that time, nobody knew who Ninja Turtles were, and he had freaking Ninja Turtles on his guitar. I was like, so awesome.
Yeah.
This is way before the cartoon or anything like that. So
See, now the first time I saw that Tank set is when I was like the era when they were showing on Entertainment Tonight. They showed that with, and I'm like, who's the guy with the thing on his face? Like, that's not Ace. Who is that? The Tank. I'm like, oh, like, this is great. So that's why that was my number 2. That awesome.
What about you, Brent?
Well, me being a drummer, I've always looked at the drums, and Eric Singer's had some amazing drum kits. Eric Carr's had some amazing drum kits, but I will forever and always love the Peter Criss's his Alive 2 drum set. Just big, huge, monstrous drum set with like 40 toms and the big, deep 18-inch snare.
What about the cats?
Cymbals everywhere, the cats, the gong behind him.
Yeah.
Everything. And when I had him sign my tour book, that's the page I took him to. And I'm like, because he sat in front of him and he was like, he was getting ready to sign the cover. And I'm like, can I get you to sign the inside for me? And he's like, sure. And I was going to flip it to him. So he started flipping through it. And he was like, oh yeah, and then he got to that drum. I said, can you sign that there? He's like, oh yeah, I remember that drum set. That's probably one of my favorite drum sets. And I got that gong from John Bonham, and it was just cool. So it was like seeing this picture that I'd looked at since I was a kid, and it got to have that little 30-second conversation about it. And he signed it right there on the drum, right in front of the bass drum. It's just amazing. As far as guitars goes, I've always liked Paul Stanley's Mirror. I guess it's the Iceman or the Mirror guitar.
Oh yeah.
And I've always loved Gene's Axe bass. I remember when he introduced the Axe bass, and that was just so it made sense. It's like, why wouldn't the Demon have an Axe bass? It just made sense. And whenever you see these pictures of him, whenever he's bleeding, whenever he's already done his blood spitting bit, and the bass has blood all over it, running down it. That's just the coolest.
Fitting, very fitting.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was enamored with Vinny's Flying V for whatever reason, especially when he used that gold one. I thought it tied in with his makeup really well.
I was about to say that was very fitting too, like aesthetically.
Yeah, I think all the instruments on that tour worked really well. Gene's Punisher bass, I've always thought was really cool. And in the last 4 or 5 years, he's been playing like different colored versions. He's got a red one, or just different type of things that he was doing with. I thought that was really cool. And he's been playing that same bass since Revenge 92, 91, and he's had a couple in there, in the mix, but it's always been that Punisher since then. It looked sharp on the Revenge tour, but that he decided to use that in the Reunion tour. I thought that looked really sick with the white outline going out around the outer rim. I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Of course, I would say, any of Eric's kits. I loved his Revenge cherry apple red kit during the club tour that he used.
Oh, yeah.
But like you said, Eric Carr's Tank tour, that chrome on chrome, I thought just looked so cool sitting on top of the drum kit. And I've got, if I can get it, not knock it off. I love this kit.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
This is the Hide Your Heart kit, and so
that's
original poster I got from the music store, and I begged the guy to have it. It's all beat up. He half tore it off the wall, but still very cool.
I love the fact too that he's such a little guy and he's got this huge kit and he just wails on it,
Nothing but hair, and he has to stand up on top of the drum kit.
Yeah.
And they were always telling him to lower his drums. He's like, no.
Yeah.
But his hair just got bigger and bigger.
Yep.
You see him there. You see him
Into the solo, he'd jump up onto the back of the bass drums.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh.
He was the first Kiss drummer to start incorporating electronic drums, and a lot of electronic drums and a lot of type of drums that Peter didn't use.
That's all I had. Sorry for my short little bit to the show, but
That was a great topic.
All right. Well, I'm glad that Rob could join us, whether it was later. And hey, I'd rather him be tardy than not here at all.
funny.
We had to pass. Hey, Dwight, pass the tardy sauce. Were you in New York delivering some tax forms? Is that where you were?
Yeah.
Is that why you were late?
Yep. Tax forms, and I got you something to write on, man. Sorry, he set me up. That's why I'm not actually late. Brant said, "No, you're going to wreck the show. You're going to stay outside until I add you in."
We need to add some like wrestling intro music, like he runs in with the steel chair,
Ultra Warrior.
the Stone Cold glass breaking.
Yeah, that's what I'll do before I bring Rob in. I'll start bringing in some wrestling music, like you getting ready to, it's happening, and all of a sudden there'll be a whoosh, and there's Rob.
Camera out of focus, of course.
Glad Rob could show up, and we're glad everybody else could join us, and just us kind of sitting around. And I said, Rob, at the beginning of this, you missed it. I said we were doing it in my head, in our heads. We were kind of doing round tables before all the rest of us started doing round tables.
Yeah.
So it's cool topics that we had, and we'll be back in a few months. About once a quarter, we'll pop these out, and we'll be back, and we'll talk about who knows what. Feel free to interact down in the comments about your rumors that you heard when you were a kid, or your favorite eras of the band, or your list of what you liked when you were young versus what you like now. We'd love to hear about that. May read some of the comments in the next episode. Kind of steal something from Xander and Daphne. May read some comments in the next In Our Heads episode. And so you guys, to show you I appreciate you, why don't you go ahead and pimp out your socials real quick. Start directly below me with Matthew.
All right. Well, I'm on Instagram, MD Smith Comics, but you can also find our comic page on there. It's Saturday Comics. The logo is a little ghost with the beanie cap on. And me and my wife, we do a horror magazine and horror comics, and we do a lot of conventions and stuff. If you live in the Southeast, we're probably coming somewhere near you. In fact, our next show is Mad Monster Expo in Charlotte, North Carolina in August, at the end of August. So we have a lot of horror merchandise and everything, and we do these Lego minifigure shadow boxes, which Brant's seen. I do Kiss ones too, so I have those.
Ooh.
Yeah, I do the 4 solo albums. I only sell those as a set because can't have someone break it up. Everybody wants Ace. Nobody wants anything else.
Gotta take Peter.
But yeah, find me on,
Here, take Peter and Gene as well.
but yeah, find me on there. MD Smith Comics is me, and Saturday Comics is our comic page. So,
All right, AJ, what about you?
Instagram, AJR_Zetro1975. Just horror, Kiss, metal, wrestling, whatever. And AJ's Happy Fun Time channel, my YouTube channel. More of the same crap on Instagram, just with me babbling over it in the background. So if you want to kill some time, check it out.
I love the YouTube short you did recently with the wrestling match on, with the mask on, doing the Grimace Shake review.
I saw the thumbnail for that. I haven't watched yet. I was like, oh, I gotta watch this one.
It's 30 seconds of me being a smartass. That's all.
Hey,
Do you
man.
need any more? That's all. I mean, that's great.
That's what I do best.
And last but not least, we saved the best for last since he showed up late, Rob.
And he's blurry because he touched his friggin' camera. You can follow me on Twitter at DrummerRob10. I don't give this Instagram out a lot, but you can find me at Rogue Drummer. So anything that I'm doing behind the drum kit, I'll take pictures of the drums and do all that stuff. And then the podcast, Right Between the Eyes, we're on all the social media at either Right Between the Eyes or RBTE podcast.
All right, and that's all we got. Thanks for sitting in and listening to what is going on in our heads. And we will be back after we take a little hiatus for therapy. We'll be back sometime in the fall for the next episode, and we will see you then and there. See ya. I'm going to try to shoot a record store video, going record store shopping, and then I'm going to be doing a Gene Simmons, fixing Gene Simmons album. And I think John B. Good wants to come back for that one. But if anybody wants to help me fix Gene Simmons' album,
Well, you saw it'll be the same way I fixed Peter's album.
Right in the can.
I kid.
Let's throw in some songs from Aladdin and
yeah, right.
Beauty and the Beast.
hey, hot take. I'm going to tell you guys because I'm not going to put this in the video. I'm going to basically, when I come back, when I do a 3, 2, 1, courtesy of Rob, I'm going to basically shoot the ending. But my hot take on one of the things I'm going to do to fix Gene's album is to.
Thank you.
I remember getting that and going, that can't be that. And when it started, I was like, it's a Wonderful World of Disney.
Mhm.
Me too. Like it's got to be just a coincidence that it's named that, right?
Yeah.
I think we talked about that before. I'm gonna, you're gonna put it on and go like, "When you wish upon a star, yeah, nope. yeah. Nope.
I'm a real boy now, yeah.
Nope. No luck.
Upon a sun. It's like, Gene, come on, man. As if the rest of your album wasn't enough.
Got no strings to tie me down, yeah.
I was in sync before in sync.
That's right. They took a cue from Kiss.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Well, when are you doing that anyway? Maybe I don't know. I don't want to pick on it, but I just have to, though, I think.
Yeah. I don't want to punch you in the throat, but I'm really going to.
Right? That Step Brothers
you know what I have to do right now, right? Did you touch my drum set? Did you touch Gene Simmons' album?
Exactly.
Touch Gene Simmons' album.
I just want to punch you right in the face.